In this August evening, just following Vespers, looking forward to Matins in the morning, I wanted to discuss a little bit, from perhaps a different perspective, some of the things going on in the Orthodox Church today. You know, we're extremely grateful for the leadership that the Ecumenical Patriarch has given to the Orthodox world in the great struggle of ecology. And it's been very rewarding and moving to us to see him giving us this leadership. I could pay a special tribute to the late Patriarch Alexei of Russia, who also gave enormous pastoral leadership in extraordinarily difficult times in the history of the Russian Church. And that through his efforts, still with a lot of communist officers in the military, he managed to restore the chaplaincy in Russia, to institute the chaplaincy in prisons, which has moved forward now in a very positive and wonderful way to actually establishing parishes in prisons. And all of the other accomplishments of this great man who came through the fire and was compromised, of course. We all know that he was compromised during communist times, but he certainly acquitted himself well in the building up of the church and in the reestablishment of the ministry of the Orthodox Church in Russia. But as we undertake the developments in North America in particular, and people are talking about canonicity and administrative unity and administrative canonicity and all these other things, we have to pause for a moment to think about more important things, more significant things than mere administrative unity and that kind of canonicity. As many of you know, the canons of the Church are something that exists now in something of a Turkish market. Hierarchs of the Church follow the ones they like, don't follow the ones they don't like, ignore the ones that they're not particularly fond of, and absolutely insist upon the fulfillment of every canon that gives them power and authority. So the canons are mostly now a tool of power and authority for the hierarchs of the Church, and not really something that governs our church life in a complete and broad way. Now, of course, we understand that some of the canons of the Church are in a way obsolete because times have changed and the circumstances they responded to are no longer there. But until we start to think about the greater issues facing the Orthodox Church in our day, and among those, the fact that we're in the midst of a new axial period, when there's such an enormously radical shift in the way human beings think, and in the worldview and the way the mind processes information, that this new axial period takes us out of the realm of Hellenism and philosophy. I hear a lot of our Greek brethren talking about, Hellenism should be a key part of the Orthodox Church. Of course, Hellenism equals paganism. Hellenism equals the pagan philosophers. But the philosophers are no longer important in our world. They were part of the great human dialogue, but their ideas about learning, how we learn, what we learn, about locations of the hegemonicon in the human person, that is, where we think, where our emotions are, all these other things, are completely irrelevant because they've all been completely disproved. They mean nothing. They were mere speculations at a time when we could not explore them in a deeper way. Throughout the centuries, from the first great axial period when philosophy actually developed, the philosophers came together with great ideas and great thoughts. Now, this philosophy eventually split two ways. It continued as philosophy in one sense, but went into the philosophy of science in another sense. In society, there was a kind of a trickle-down. The ordinary people, of course, weren't really conversant with the philosophers and what they were philosophizing about. But people like Kant, John Locke, and others, who had such a profound influence on, say, the American Constitution and the movement for the formation of the United States, and the Red Tory philosophers who helped shape Canada, and to a certain degree the British Constitution, and all of these philosophers, their ideas filtered down and gradually reshaped society and culture in different ways. But the trickle down is no longer from philosophers. It's from the physicists, the scientists. And this is what is reshaping the way people think, how they understand. And we in the church need to be cognizant and aware of that and respond to it. This is one of the great issues that we have today. And how to adjust to this, how to break ourselves free from the medieval ideas or even the Hellenistic ideas, where Plato and Aristotle had some real significance in society. They don't. I noticed that a lot of Greek schools, even church schools, are not named for the great saints of the church. They're named for pagan Greek philosophers. And this idea that locks so many teachers and priests and hierarchs of the church and people into something that's antique and really has little to do with the fathers of the church, really has little to do with the life of the world in which we live, or the way people are going to respond or how they're going to think. You know, so many of the arguments which were once magnificent from, say, Aristotle or something, the law of the excluded middle and all these other things, are completely irrelevant in modern physics. And we see how through technology, through electronics, and all these other aspects of our society and culture, a lot of the old prejudices and hatreds and malice are disappearing. Unfortunately, they're sometimes being replaced with new ones. But we live in a world which is facing a whole new scope of catastrophes that need to be responded to. And people are concerned about secularism and secularization. Well, secularizing the church is a serious problem. Secularism in society is not something we should be quite so concerned about. I notice that some Orthodox Christian leaders are willing to compromise the Orthodox faith and the canons of the church in order to respond to secularism in civil society. It isn't a problem. It's a secularism in the church that is created by the attempt to respond to secularism in civil society, and by the loss of the meaning of the life of the church itself and the liturgical life, and realizing that the life of the world is a kind of liturgical life. People live by rituals, and people live by rubrics. People can deny that they like ritual, but their own lives are a series of rituals. Our mind operates on the basis of a kind of ritual, and certainly on the basis of certain rubrics. The Divine Liturgy is a response to the rituals of the world that are often manipulated by Satan. But at the same time, we cannot lose ourselves in medieval and antique understandings of how we're expressing the liturgy and how people are receiving it. And we have to respond to this new axial era, this new axial age. And I don't have time now, but I'm going to talk about it a great deal later on, and how we respond to the really important things that are going on today.